Hello and welcome to the Huddersfield Town Social. My name is Marah. Joining me as ever is Cameron Pope, Ian Kilroy, Gareth Kaye, and Statman Nick makes his return in a lovely chunky jumper, it looks like. On Zoom, we're here to talk about the FA Cup defeat to Plymouth Argyle yesterday as Huddersfield Town's B team, if we're being very, very honest. Fell narrowly short to Plymouth Argyle in something that felt more akin to a friendly than an actual competitive cup game of football. It's one of those might have beens as Huddersfield Town realistically are going to finish mid-table. It would have been nice to go for it in the cup, but 3-2 defeat, some promising youngsters coming in and performing, some players not particularly taking their chance, and all in all, just a bit of a mehness about the game altogether, as well as FA play who either worked beautifully for some, or if you're like me and Nick, it failed completely to deliver. So, what a game, what a day.
Well, essentially, it's the B team by name, but I think in essence, it was really an under-18 side peppered with a few more experienced heads. And I, for one, there's a lot of talk of how impressive it was that some young lads, and I mean some really young lads as well, came out, give it their all and everything. They showcased some of the skills they've learned, obviously, in the new B team setup. They worked hard for it, and I think a lot of them can come off and feel really proud of themselves because that's a tough game to go straight into against quite a physical, full strength League One side. However, I am more than slightly disappointed with what I watched yesterday. I just have a bit of a sour feeling about it, if I'm quite honest. I mean, I watched 90 minutes of wholesome, heartwarming action that, lit that glow within in the afternoon. And then I turned Notting Hill off, went to Twitter and looked at the team sheet and saw, okay, look, I've commentated on Town about half a dozen times this season, so I'd like to think that I knew the squad list quite well. There was two players on that bench that I had never even heard of before in passing, so I was quite surprised. It actually brought back memories of the time that my mate and I went down to Birmingham in the promotion season and we saw Regan Booty on the bench. It does make you wonder, and I was left scratching my head thinking, okay, we expected a weakened side to be out, or maybe not weak, maybe that's not fair. We expected a second string side to be out. But then I would have thought they'd be complemented by a few experienced heads. And I think that was what it needed, to be quite honest. And I'm just a little bit disappointed with the negative choices made, particularly on the bench, where we just needed that little bit of first team experience sprinkled in there. And I just want to point out, I want to look back over the last few years, of course, because the last time we won an FA Cup game was going back to the fourth round in 2018 when we beat Birmingham after a replay. So that's 3 times now in a row that we've been out in the third round. So in 2018, 2019, they lost at Bristol City. Terrible game. I think didn't Ben Hamer give away a corner from a goal kick. Anyway, we were 18th in the Premier League at that point. So you can kind of understand why we weren't focusing on the FA Cup. Last season, we lost to Southampton. At that point, we were 20th in the Championship. Yesterday, as we were recording on Sunday, we lost to Plymouth Argyle. We were 13th in the Championship. We're not, I'm going to say it again, I don't think we're going to go down this season. We're probably not going to have much chance of going up either. So what else is there to go for? Go for the cup. We've got a week until we face Watford. We've got a bit of a gap there, exactly. I know that less of the first team have trained than we would have liked, and it's unfortunate about Benza having to self-isolate, because I think just the inclusion of him or Peeper would have torn things up after an hour. But I thought before that third goal went in, which of course was the killer blow, I thought that we just looked out of it. The first half, we looked quite dynamic. We looked strong going forward. We threatened them every time we crossed it into that defence, in that attacking third. But at the back, we looked weak and naive and very vulnerable. And that vulnerability grew in the second half. And so after an hour, you could just get the sense of the tide turning. And so when the goal went in with 20 minutes left, I was watching it with my girlfriend and I turned her and I said, we ain't getting back into this. It's not happening, because there was nowhere to look. Certain characters looked very tired. Others looked lost. Others looked both. And you look to the bench and, there was no one to call on. The only recognisable names in there really were, you've got Schofield. And for me, it was disappointing. It was really disappointing to see that we didn't throw just a couple of bodies in there. It could have changed the game in the last 20 minutes, because do you know what? It's not a distraction this year. It would have been, okay, from a fan's perspective, it would have been a really, it would have been a nice jaunt. It would have been something to take your mind off, exactly. It's something we've missed for the last few years, and the first time we've been able to afford it because of our league position. But the players as well, it gives the young players exactly some time to showcase themselves, some time to fight for a place in the first team. I know, and we're going back to the same point we always make, that the squad is too thin, and so it would have been irresponsible to play more than 2 or 3 first teamers in that. But I don't think we needed to completely go for the youth team over any experience whatsoever. And so for me, I'm very, very disappointed with that team selection. And that's probably the first time I've been really against what Carlos has put on the team sheet. That said, however, I think it would be unfair not to single out some stellar performances from particularly the young lads. I thought Aaron Rowe, I thought his goal was absolutely sublime. I thought he looked confident and assured in the ball. I hope we see a bit more of him in the first 11. And the other lad I want to mention was Pat Jones. I thought for a lad of 17, it was a great bowling for the first goal. He cut in well off the wings. He was lucky enough to score himself early in the second half. He got a masterful delivery from out wide. I think he could be a real talent. But again, and I'm sure the others will talk about this in depth as well, there were players, and perhaps not the ones you'd expect, perhaps more the experienced ones, who really, really struggled yesterday.
For a club that's talking about protecting revenues and generating income, to throw away what was a decent opportunity to get through to the 4th round, and they're making the 5th round draw, I think, at the same time as well. So you would have had a lovely little carrot potential, the 5th round draw. I think to more or less throw the game, which is what we did with that team selection, was a bit disappointing. I was as surprised as you when I saw the team. I expected 6, 7, maybe even 8 changes, but I expected there to be a little bit of a core down the middle of the pitch, people with some experience. And same with the bench. I mean, you look at, as you say, you look at the bench, and there was kids on there, and there were kids that you'd never heard of. There's 1 or 2 obvious names. Where was Pritchard? I mean, if ever there was a time to try and give a guy some game time, then yesterday was it. So I don't know if that's a hidden message to Pritchard or whether he's come down with something. I don't really know. I've seen comments afterwards that Carlos is saying there was only 4 of the 11 that played the prior week in training this week. So, there's clearly a little bit of COVID going around. There's a little bit of self-isolation. So maybe that played a part in it. But, I actually quite enjoyed yesterday. I enjoyed the first half. I thought it was a really good game of football. I thought both teams had a proper go. I was interested that you said that the defence looked vulnerable. I thought we looked vulnerable down the sides. I actually thought, excuse me if the pronunciation's wrong, Olangunju, is it Olangunju? I thought actually he looks like he could be a footballer, that lad. I mean, he's quite rangy, he's quite tall, but he looked confident. He got booked early on, but didn't let that affect his game. I thought he did okay. I'm with you. I thought Pat Jones really shone. When he got on the ball, you can see the quality that lad might possess. And he's 17. I mean, that's the crazy thing. This guy is 17. And I thought Rowe did all right as well. Like you can, when we attacked, I thought we looked really strong. I thought, that goal of Rowe's was, if that isn't goal of the day, I don't know what else you have to do to get it. I thought Jayden Brown actually played all right in the first half. He was trying to do a peeper. He kept coming inside and getting involved in the middle, but he faded. But, I think the one that really stuck out, and it's perhaps unfair to pick an individual, but, D'Amico Dehaney, who's got quite a bit of first-team experience now, I thought he was really poor yesterday. He gave the ball away for the first goal. He was done for the cross for the second goal, and he didn't go with the runner on the third goal. I think he really didn't look that great. But a special mention for me for Bayeko. I thought the first 10 minutes, I'm thinking, I can see why Carlos isn't too keen to play this bloke. He gave it away every time he got near the ball. But I thought he grew into the game, and in the second half, when he played in the middle of the back three, he looked really confident. It was one point in our own penalty box where he got the ball and dribbled past about 4 Plymouth players to bring it away. So, yeah, we played okay. I think you have to give Plymouth a bit of credit that they played with nous. In the second half, they said, well, come on then, come and see what you can do. They were much more compact, and the youngsters couldn't break them down. And if we're going to continue to play a B team that mirrors the A team, then that's one thing we don't want to mirror. The A team do that on a regular basis. Lots of ball, little end product. It's something that Carlos has clearly got to work on. But yeah, I just think it was a really easy opportunity to perhaps progress and bank some money. But I can also understand why he did what he did. But we definitely need some more bodies around the first team squad. If that doesn't tell you we need more bodies, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I can only echo what you said, Gareth. Is this Carlos's way of saying, look, these it's a good way to get experience to these kids, but we're still way short, and we need more players in. Is it a way of hinting that actually the chances are we're not going to be getting any more players in? So we've got to protect all the first team players because this is what we've got till the end of the season. I don't know. A little bit worrying in that sense. I'm a bit different to you guys. I'm not overly bothered. I think if there was ever a year where we could do this in the FA Cup, it's this year. You know, no one can go and see the game. If we went through and got a big draw against Man City at home, it wouldn't matter because no one can go. You could play anybody. The prize money for getting through this round, I think, is 61.5 grand, and I think we get 21.5 grand for losing it. So in relative terms, the actual prize money is a pittance. We're not going to gain much money from it. We've got the things to take away from the game. I don't think you could take much away. I don't think I learned much more than what we already knew, that a lot of these kids, they're not really good enough for first team. I thought Pat Jones, I echo what you said. I thought he had a really good first half, had a good driving run to begin with. That led to the chance, and then from the corner, really good delivery in. Ola Gunju are really right. Actually, I've seen a couple of snippets of him for the youth team, and he reminded me a bit of a really young sort of Naby Sarr. Can play out from the back quite well. Obviously, just needs a lot more experience, but I think there's a good player in there, and I think he will be a good defender for us one day, hopefully. Dehaney just looked out of his depth for me. Just really struggled. Phillips didn't see much of him, and I didn't actually get to see a lot of the game because of the problems with FA player. But I'm not sure. I mean, someone that watched it will be able to tell me. But did Aarons do anything? I didn't really hear much of him when he came on. I know he's not really played much, so unexpected miracles. But I didn't really hear anything. But he contributed. So I haven't really learned much from the game other than it was a decent run out for the kids, and there's a couple of good prospects in there. Others I'm a bit more concerned about. But for me personally, and I know some of you guys have contrasting views on this, but especially this year, but the FA Cup itself, I'm losing a bit of love with it, lads, in all honesty. And for me, I would rather we just concentrate on the league, particularly this season. I think if anything, it's just going to be a distraction. Knowing our luck, we'll get more injuries. I am surprised Pritchard didn't play, but I mean, he gets injured by a gust of wind, that bloke. So he'd probably, break a nail and be out for another 3 months. So I think if we are going to be stuck with these, if this is our, if we're not going to be getting any more players in, potentially, I hope we do. But if this is what we've got, preserve it, see it out to the end of the season, build, and then maybe have a better run next season when we've got a stronger squad. I don't know, but yeah, that's all I could take from it. Really, good run out, but no more than that. I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that we've gone out early, to be honest, this time.
Yesterday was just a massive waste of time for everybody. I think it's a massive waste of time for us. You can sit here and say that the youth have had a nice little run out. I think most of them had already made their debuts for Town before. I don't think it was the first game. There might have been a few on the bench there, of course, that we're not aware of. And there was a couple of new debutants in the starting lineup with the centre-back. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. But, you see, teams rest their starting 11 quite often in the FA Cup. That is something that I still find distasteful, but I understand it. I was here last week saying that's what we should do. Give the lads a couple of weeks rest, which we have done. And let's come back raring to go next Saturday, because the league is most important for us at the moment. I get the financial aspect of it, and like Nick said, the money's not that great. I think it's the 40 grand difference between winning yesterday and having an extra game and losing. That's probably made up with player bonuses for making an appearance, or so you've got to get people into the stadium. If you're at home, of course, you've got to have. There'll still be the amount of stewards you need for whatever reason, even though there's no crowd there. There's all sorts of different match day staff that you need there, even though there's no crowd. So I imagine the chairman signed off on putting out a weakened team in regards to potential revenue loss very easily, because I don't think there would have been one there. And you never know you're going to get in the fourth round. It could be someone great, it could be someone crap. But even that, 90 grand for winning, it's not the be-all and end-all for us, is it? But when you see teams put out weakened starting 11s, usually, like you say, on the bench, you have a couple of game changers late on. So if your under 18s do the business and are close and are in contention at the end, you chuck on a decent first teamer and see how they go to see if you can just nick a win. Because if you can win yesterday by putting out the B team, great. Of course you want to do that. Unfortunately, Plymouth, they're only 27 positions below us. And they put out the first 11 minus 2 players. One of them, McLeod, I think he was injured and wasn't on the bench. And then there was Carnovan, I think, who plays at centre-back usually for them, and he's played most games this season. The rest of them have started nearly every game. And over the last 4 games before the Town game, bar those 2 players, the starting lineup has been the same. So we can't sit here saying, well, we had to rest our players because they've played 4 or 5 games with the same starting 11 up until this point, because Plymouth have done basically the same thing, and they've managed to handle it better than we have. Yesterday was Plymouth's first team versus Huddersfield Town's under-18s, wasn't it? We are so early in this B team process that we don't actually have a B team just yet. It's not there. We've got an under-18s team. We've brought in Grant from Ireland, and I think he's the first piece in that B team puzzle. We're looking at those younger lads, 100 grand, 200 grand, bring him in, let them develop, see how they go. Great. So yesterday we put out the under-18s, and to me, for those guys playing, missing such a few experienced players in there makes it less of a valuable experience for them. There was Bayeko in there, we know that, but he's barely played for us. But say you've got 4 or 5 first teamers in, and then you bring in the young lads, and then they're receiving the nice little through balls from proper first team players like Lewis O'Brien or Bakuna. They're playing with better players, so it helps them lift their abilities as well, and they perform better. And you see if they can do it in a good team. We didn't really learn anything yesterday. I don't think any Town fan saw that yesterday and thought, oh, Lee's a great player. In fact, if anything, I looked at it and I saw just weaknesses across the board. And I don't really want to go into too many negatives because they are young lads. They're so early in their careers. It's not really fair to pick out on faults that they've made yesterday, because really they shouldn't be in that situation. They shouldn't be in that situation. There should be more depth than what we've got than putting in under-18s to play in an FA Cup third round that most of us as kids dreamt about playing in a proper game. Instead, we've thrown one away, and again, we understand why. Not a problem with it, but they won't have learned very much. They won't have learned very much. And I can't sit here and say I thought Rowe had a good game even though he scored, because all our goals came down the right-hand side. It's easy to pick on Dehaney because it looks like he's at fault. But then for this, I think it was the second goal, or the third goal, was a bit of a mix-up between Delaney and Rowe, and it's impossible to say who should have taken the overlap, who should have taken the guy with the ball. There was so many errors all the way through the 3 goals we conceded. FA player was awful for me as well. I tried to watch the game in about 15 different ways. I was VPNing. I was on Bet365. I was disappointed Cam wasn't commentating yesterday. I saw about 55 minutes of it, and throughout that, I managed to get all the goals. But the first goal was fantastic. Critchlow's front post run, brilliant. Absolutely clinical header at the front post. Wonderful. I have a bit of an issue on Plymouth not having a guy on the back post. I don't understand why in today's football at corners there is no one on the back post. I do not understand it. I'm glad for it because, of course, we scored from it. It was great. But Plymouth had 7 men in their box to 4 of Town. And because they didn't have one guy on the back post, they conceded a goal. It was a great start for us. It came from nothing, really, about a little bit of work. But it was one that just went in our favour, really. It was great. But we're not a team with the under-18s out there that can really capitalise on it. And then for Plymouth's first goal, on Gunju and Bayeko were all over the place, guys. I know you say he had a decent game, but he's at fault there. The runners run straight between the middle of them. No one's gone out to meet Jepicott. He's had 24 hours to put a nice little pass between the centre-back and the 2 centre-backs as Bayeko drops in to be the third CB. Awful. Hamer couldn't do much about it. Great goal. Rowe's goal, fantastic. We know that. He's cutting from the right. He's run 35 yards. He hasn't had to dribble past anyone. The defender's 10 yards off him before he pops it in the corner, but he's got a lot of work to do. I'm not going to take anything away from him. Brilliant finish. Not much she had to do to get it to the point where he could have a shot, though. And then Town, I thought the creativity died a little bit in that second half. The young lads, not too many years ago, they wouldn't have even been playing 90 minutes. And now we're chucking them in against a really decent League One side and expecting him to compete throughout. We didn't make a sub till 77 minutes. Those guys were out there to perform for 90 minutes if they could. Unfortunately, young lads against an experienced team who they were the better team, maybe not possession-wise, but I thought Plymouth asked far more questions than we did. Okay, we were good in attack, but not decisive in attack, not creating the kind of chances you expect to score from, just huffing and puffing and doing all right. But then it was a Dehaney and Rowe show, unfortunately, for the final 2 goals for me. I just thought they were all over the place for the marking. But again, I don't like picking on them. I've spent 2 minutes here talking about all the errors the young lads have made, and it's not very fair because, of course, they are playing with other young lads that are inexperienced. Last week, we talked about Schofield and Reg having a bit of an issue at one moment where there was no experience between the pair of them. They slipped and let the Reading striker, I think it was, get a bag, because neither of them had the experience to call and send the other one on the way. Yesterday, we have 11 players, bar Bayeko. We had 10 players on the field doing the same thing time and time and time again. So it's unfair to judge them all because they had no one else to carry them. They had no help from any experienced players. That's a decision Corbyn makes. we'll know if it was worth it next Saturday, won't we? We'll know if it's worth it then. But I just expected to have a little bit of game changers on the bench to come on and do it. And Rolando Irons, he's only been in the building for a few minutes, hasn't he? So we can't expect too much from him. What I've been training so much with these lads, I don't even know their names, I imagine. But look, it was a waste of time for you guys. It was a waste of time for me. Waste of time for anyone listening to this, really. There was nothing we learned from yesterday, but that Town didn't really want to win.
You say it, don't pick on people and that they're young, but Dehaney's 22 years old. This season's make or break in his career. And the club took a decision 2.5 years ago when he got let go by Man City to let go our very own England youth international Jordan Williams and saw Dehaney as kind of a better option. But Jordan Williams is at first choice right back at Barnsley and would no doubt be a vast improvement in this squad. And Dehaney's 22 and he's, no disrespect, but doesn't appear to be going anywhere except, probably Bradford City, as all of our old youngsters seem to go these days. So in a way, we have learnt some things. We've learnt that some of these players who are called young are probably not remotely near what the level that we need them to be. And you can say B team, fair enough, but at 22, you need to be playing first team football. And surely Carlos has learnt from that some of these players will not be good enough for where Huddersfield Town are. And given the transfer windows open, surely right back, fullbacks. I thought Jaden Brown did all right on the extended highlights that I've seen. They worked, like FA player, but there will be now a question to say, do we need to go out and get a right back? Because for me, that performance yesterday just kind of was the final nail in his career at Huddersfield Town.
I hope it's not quite as serious as that, but I'm with you there because I'm very reluctant to go and criticise young individuals, especially the ones that have been thrown in for their first real taste of first team action. Dehaney doesn't really fit into that mould. He is a young lad yet, but he's younger than me, but he has had a lot of first team, or relatively and comparatively, he's had a lot of first team experience. To be honest, I wonder if we can put it down to him playing in a natural position. He seemed to be playing in front of the defence, where normally we've seen him as a full back. I wasn't really sure for the 90 minutes where he was playing, and at times it looked to me as an outside that he wasn't exactly sure where he was playing, and so I wonder if it might have been that alien positioning that might have got in his way. We've seen him play a lot better than that, but then again, also, he's not been someone that's been consistently in the first team this season because of how strong our fullbacks have been, and so that was a real chance for him last night, and so I'm disappointed for him. I saw a lot of people saying that maybe a loan would be a good move, and perhaps because they obviously think that there is something there, and they see this guy day in day out. I think it didn't happen for him last night, and I hope that's down to him playing not where he'd be most comfortable. And so for me that's it. It was a shame, and I hope now that it's not as terminal as that, and that's it for him. I hope that really it's okay. Once we put him at full back, he can come on and be in a position to cover. I wouldn't be opposed to him going out and learn for the rest of the season, because look, if he comes back in 6 months' time, a more established player, if he's played a bit of men's football further down the leagues and not say B team football, maybe that'll do him some good, because he is at that phase now where he's not going to be a young player for much longer. And as with the rest of them, I really hope it does come off right for him, because fullback is such an important position for us as well. I do hope we can find them all clicking, and personally, I want to put that down to being played out of position. But who knows? Time will tell on that one. But the other name that's coming up quite a lot, and he's not a young player either, and so I don't feel like I can speak candidly on him, was Alex Bayeko. Everyone's been singing his praises and saying how established he looked. I thought he struggled at the start. I was very worried, as I think you said, Gaz, didn't you? I was really worried when I first saw him. I thought, it took me a second to recognise who he was. I thought, what's going on in the centre of defensive midfield here? But then, he did grow into the game. I don't think he was, the game changer that people said he was, apart from, a fantastic block at 3-2. So I'll give him that. He'd certainly bumped himself up towards the end. So I thought it was a good performance. I wouldn't say, it was man of the match stuff. But again, I hope that this is someone we can call on off the bench every now and again. And so the level that he reached, I was like, this guy, he could fit into the first team. But no, it wasn't a full 90 minutes where I was full of confidence. But then again, okay, what can you expect? I guess that's expecting a lot. He's barely played for the first team this season, and he's bedding in. And so look, yeah, and at the end of the game, he was looking composed. So I wouldn't say I was completely bowled over, but it was encouraging. It was encouraging to say the least.
I was swapping messages with my son during the game, and I think one of the things I did notice when you look at these lads that are sort of 21 and over, and you got Romany Critchlow Noble, you got Jaden Brown, they actually looked at least physically like the Plymouth players. They looked like men, and I think obviously a lot of the younger lads, quite understandably, didn't. And Dehaney, who probably was the oldest of that cohort, didn't. You know, physically he looked light, physically he looked short. And loans are interesting. You look at the more successful loan and then return to the club we've had in the last few years has been Lewis O'Brien, who went to Bradford, played at a reasonable level. I think they would have been League One at that time. And he played virtually every game. And then you look at the players we're loaning out now, with the exception of Reece Brown, who's playing at Plymouth. We're sending these kids out to Welling and Guiseley and places like that. And then the ones that are getting league teams are not getting any football. There's a lad, I can't remember his name, there's a lad gone to Carlisle, I think, isn't there? And then Scott I went to Shrewsbury. And, these guys are hardly kicking a ball. So sending them out on loan is all very well, but it's got to be a level that will actually improve them as players. Sending him to playing Vanarama North League isn't going to improve D'Amico Dehaney to the level that we're going to need him to improve to come back and participate in a championship football team next year. So loans are all very well, but I do worry that these players are not attracting clubs in League One, League Two knocking on our door saying, we'll take them and we'll try and do something with them.
Exactly. That's my worry as well. Like you look at where these guys go. They should be going to League One. They should be going to the league below to get experience, not Guiseley and teams like that where it's nowhere near the level that we need them to be at. And that says everything to me. The fact that most of our youth players, they can't get any game time at that level. It's not like it's not a big step up from League Two, League One to the Championship. So if they're only getting game time in National League, etc., what does that tell us? Like you say, a lot of these players that we talk about as being young players, but they're in early 20s, and you don't have a really long career in football. We're talking another year or so, and we're going to have to make a decision on whether these are going to be able to step up or whether we let them move on. And I will be very surprised if more than two of those players that we've seen there will make it into the first team. I will be very surprised. I hope they all do well, obviously, but I'm not seeing much. I'm not seeing enough to be able to convince me that these players are going to be able to come into the first team and set the world alight. I just think a lot of these players are okay, but they'll end up where most of them do, which is in League Two.
Well, put into context, Nick, Pieper is 22.
Well, yeah.
If people want a measure of context of where these kids should be, and we're calling them kids, and they are kids, relatively speaking, but where they should be in their early 20s. If you want a benchmark, they're 22, and Benza and Bakuna are 23, I think. So they're less than a season away from being at that point in their careers. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk across you, but
is it not? Sorry, Nick, is it not a question then of? This is thinking a lot broader before I let the happy clapper get involved. It's what are we going to do with the B team? Because I'm thinking, you look at Reg. He went to Swindon last season for a dozen games. He won the league with them before obviously COVID postponed the season. Top end of League Two, but even going back through that, Jack Hunt was a talent. He went on loan to the Conference when we're in League One. So there are, there will be teams in League Two and even potentially in the Conference that will give these kids experience. But is that what the club wants with the B team philosophy? This is what we don't know. We've never really had an explanation come from the club what they see us doing. They kind of have sold something as being a Brentford model, which isn't a Brentford model as we've already seen. We don't particularly know what's going on in that respect. All we can do is view what's been on the pitch and say, yeah, there's some talent definitely in there. Pat Jones, etc. And we all know the talent that Matty Daly, etc. have. Kieran Phillips nearly scored a very good goal early on in the game. There's clearly talent in there, but it's how the club extract them. And it's all about that wider angle of where the club sees this going in the next 5-6 years, because they've already fannied about and get rid of with the academy, got rid of it, which is bonkers when you got Schofield, Daly, O'Brien coming through, because it kind of shows the club, and Dean Oyle especially, whose decision it was, that actually there was the talent there, you just weren't extracting it. And on the flip side of that, it's like, right, what are you going to do with these players when they get to that bottleneck? You're going to have to let some of them go out and get some first team football without keeping them around. So that's the most interesting thing for me, because I love how we sparked a wider debate by saying Dehaney's crap and we shouldn't have got rid of Jordan Williams. But it's that kind of thing. It's like you've got to have to release the pressure at that bottleneck that every single club has. Is that the whole pathways mantra that we had under Ross Wilson? We don't particularly know where that is at the minute.
Look, the B team stuff's really early, isn't it? In its like inception, it's too early to say if it's working or not working. It seems a bit strange because we have sent some out on loan where we said previously we'd keep them here to play under the B team, so they're ready to step up when required. But when you actually look back at the players that have stepped up and who performed actually pretty well yesterday and who've performed well when stepping up into the first team recently, they've all been out on loan. You see, my problem yesterday, right, and you guys have put a perfect example in there why I reckon yesterday was a mistake for Town, because you've written off half of the players in the team because they were playing with other players of similar levels of experience as they have. That's my problem with it, guys. It is, guys, you can shake your head, guys. Guys, you can shake your head. But if they're playing with the first 10 first teamers and they're in there as the 11th, it's a lot easier for them to perform to a level where fans think, oh, do you know what? He's doing really well. And you can't underestimate how much of a confidence boost that can be to a player. If they start off on the right foot, it just gives them a little bit extra to get moving forward. And it's all right saying loans to lower league crap like Welling or whatever is a waste of time. It's not. It's a learning experience when you go there and you're not pampered to the same extent as an ex-Premier League club pampers their players at Huddersfield Town. There's more to it. It's not an exact science. Fans try and conceptualize things into nice little pigeonhole boxes so you can say, no, that shit, that doesn't work. Who knows what works? Ricky Lambert was how old when he started making his moves towards the Premier League? Things and people develop at different times. Lewis O'Brien went to Bradford. Before that, did we even know about him very much? No. He was 20 when he went to Bradford, I think, for the first year. And he came back at 21, and then he obviously hit the ground running. But that's still pretty old, isn't it, really? When we're thinking, compared to some of the guys that have got game time yesterday, they've got 3 or 4 years before they get to the age that Lewis O'Brien was, before he went to Bradford. So we can't write these guys off. Brahima Diarra killed a guy a few weeks ago with a turn on the edge of a box. He's 16. He's 16. And now it's unfair for fans to get on the back of players like that just because of what happened yesterday. Yesterday, they were playing with inexperienced players, and not all of them will make it. But some of them will. There'll be a Jordan Williams in there, but it's hard to see them when they're playing with other players that aren't necessarily ready to play first-team football against a team only 27 positions below the actual first team of Huddersfield Town. That's my beef. That's my beef with yesterday. With the B team, no one actually knows what the B team's going to be. You don't know if it's marketing talk just yet or what. Like you say, Reece Brown's gone out on loan. There's a few other ones that have gone out to lower league oppositions, but this might take 2 or 3 years to come to fruition. And from all the things the club is saying, that's, I think, what they're after. I think they're not looking at it this year or next year. They're trying to get the high earners off their books, and I think it's pretty clear to all of us. That's why Pritchard and Diakabi was nowhere to be seen yesterday. They're not in Dubai, as we know. Every footballer normally knocks off to Dubai, don't they, in January for a week or so. They're not there with what's going on, of course. So they're knocking about, but they didn't get any game time. They weren't there. They're obviously on their way, or we're protecting them to make sure they can go on their way. We've just got, what we've got to do, don't you, guys? We've just got to trust the process. We've just got to trust the process. But I will say at the moment, my 9 out of 10 for the season's dropping rapidly after not having any game changes on the bench yesterday. It was all those under 16s is just a little bit lacking for me. A lack of intent. I thought we could have done a little bit more, but you can't rule out the B team on yesterday's performance. You just can't do it. It's not fair to young lads that have got a lot of years. Guys, you're waiting to jump in, and I'd love you to defend it. I just think you've been very harsh, and that's from me. That's normally like the harshest of any of us.
Well, listen, I wasn't. In no way have I just dismantled every player that was in that team yesterday. It's all right, you were laughing, but I think we were probably, and some might say unfairly, looking at Dehaney's performance and using that as an example I think, and then we obviously spun that off into loans. The B team thing for me, I think it'll only work if we can continue to find opposition of a decent quality for them kids to play against. Because what's the point of having a B team and just playing against other 23s and other 18 teams? That's pointless. You know, we need to try and find a way to give these. If we're going to stick with the B team model, that's fine. But you have to give these kids the chance to play games like yesterday. They need to find opposition of the level of Plymouth on a regular basis to play these lads, and that will be Premier League reserve teams, you know, but that kind of level that they've got to find. But you know, I know you were just trying to get a rise, and sadly, it looks like you got one as well, didn't you?
I was after a rise, guys. But no, the B team stuff. What my vision of the B team, and this, guys, you can correct me on this. What I think it is, you get them in the B team, you teach them about our style, then you send them off on loan to get first team experience, then you bring them back for 6 months, getting back into the Huddersfield Town way with their experience that they've got, and then you put them in the first team. That's what I'd have as a B team. I think, and I hope that's what Town are envisioning as a B team. And that's, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and with a few guys going out on loan, that's what I think is happening. And maybe next year, that's when it will kick on. But yeah, we've just got to find out, I suppose, what it is.
That's how I interpret it as well, Ian. So that's what I hope will be happening. And also, one thing to add is obviously, of course, you know, B team, they're going to be looking to play games. And okay, you've seen them play against other youth teams and selections from other clubs or around Europe, etc. I mean, I hope that they will be looking for friendlies against, say, first teams from lower divisions. Which again, okay, is might be a similar level to them, but is men's football crucially? Because I mean, I used to referee a lot of academy games. I'm pretty sure I refereed Kieran Phillips when he was at Everton, and it was just a different intensity there. Some really technically able players, but nothing like the physicality of the men's game. And you could sort of see as well, especially when, you know, Brahim Diarra came on, he just looked swamped in that midfield. Plymouth were a giant team, so the physicality is something they're really going to struggle for. But look, these kids are still kids. Like, of course they're going to. So, you know, they've got, like Ian says, a fair few years yet before they really need to be, like, you know, hitting that first team in their early 20s. And so I hope, and I imagine that the plan would be, or how I've interpreted it, is that, yeah, okay, they're going to be playing not just against youth teams, but, you know, against older sides, against senior sides, perhaps not at the level of Plymouth, maybe, you know, maybe non-league, maybe League Two, etc. In the off season, in mid-season friendly, should I say? But yeah, I think that is the way that would work best as well, though, isn't it? You know, because at some point they're going to have experience of men's football. That's why you often see players who cut it well lower down the leagues. Just look at, you know, the England players of old who played against Harry Kane, played for Leyton Orient, and played against Joe Hart at Shrewsbury. They plied their trade and learnt their trade in senior football. So there has to be a time where they go out and they learn to play the men's game, the senior game. And I imagine that happens. But yeah, of course, then you need to instill the philosophy in them, and you need to hone those technical abilities. And so I do hope that's sandwiched around some time abroad. But I think in a way, I think if that's the model that they're going to use, I think the B team could be a success. And look, it's like Ian said at the very start, we haven't got a B team yet. We've got an under-18 team with a few lads like Grant who are a little bit older. So it's probably going to be a couple of years until we see that come to fruition. I really hope it does. And so really, I'm not going to pass judgment on it yet, because I don't know what mould they will take. That's the mould I hope that they will take. But look, yeah, if we can get back to being the side that, you know, breeds homegrown talent once again, that can only be a good thing. So I'm full of hope for it.
Problem with Ian Kilroy is all or nothing. 9 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. There's nothing in the middle. Can't have constructive debate anymore, can you? Sorry, Nick.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say, does it matter where they go out on loan as well? Because you can have teams of the same league that, you know, one team might play a similar style to us that wants to play sort of free-flowing football, and another team that's backs to the wall and just shit-house away to a 1-0. You know, does it matter where the lads go? Do you think that the club's looking to try and send them to places that play a similar style of football so they get used to it, or is it a case of just getting game time in a league, you know, a league environment?
I think there might be a couple of loans, Nick, for most players. Like I think, was it Romani Critchlow went out to 3 clubs on loan before making his debut for us. He were at Bradford Park Avenue, Hartlepool, and Welling. So I think it's a bit like work experience, isn't it? You send them out to learn different things, but one of them has to be surely playing in a team, similar to when Smith Rowe came to us. Aston looked at us playing semi-decent football under the Cowleys, I kind of guess. But what he learned with us last year is pushing on, as we all know, everyone's raving about him at the moment with his performances for Arsenal, keeping Mesut Ozil out the team, technically. So yeah, I think it is important. Where I think it's very important that we send them to clubs playing a system that's not obviously it's not going to be exactly like ours. It's not going to be exactly the same, but a possession based style that still attacks rather than just passes around sideways and backwards. Yeah, I think I think it's really important.
Well, there you go. Nice little debate for you to take into the second week of full lockdown in the United Kingdom. Huddersfield Town then exit the third round of the FA Cup for the third season on the bounce. 3-2 defeat to Plymouth Argyle. Do we expect any more movement in the transfer window, gents? Because there are a couple of positions, and I know Carlos Colbrand said in his press conference / what was in the Examiner that they were looking at potentially making sure the squad was well developed, so that they weren't overly reliant on certain players. So do we expect one or two more in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I hope so, because we've still not got away from the same thing we've been debating since September, and that we are seriously thin on the ground in terms of squad numbers. So again, we're going to roll out the whole quantity as well as quality now, because we need that cover. So we have to be in league for a fullback, preferably on either side, I have to say. Although Jayden Brown played okay yesterday, I thought. It has to. There's no getting around it. And okay, Aaron's, I'll give him a fair crack at the whip, because I know what's been said about his time in League One and the fact that his injury problems, etc. He's not maybe the right caliber of player, and I don't think he's going to save our season as he was being touted as at the start of it. But hey, fair, clean slate, and I very much hope that he can bring something. I think that's the right area to shop in. But yeah, we certainly do need some fullbacks. That for me is the absolute priority. I'd like to see two. I'm probably resigned to the fact we're going to see one. So yeah, I would more than hope so. I think it's going to be a difficult sell to fans as well. Having seen obviously, that we've got promise in the lower ranks, but that's probably a couple of years away from being a viable option in the first team. I think it's going to be a difficult one to sell if we don't bring anyone else in.
Well, I'm with you, Kaye. I hope we see at least a couple. I still think we need another front man. Fraser Campbell's been unreal in the last 5 games. The fact he's played 5 back-to-back in 18 days or something, and performed reasonably well has been great. But we can't rely on a bloke in his early 30s to play like that week in, week out. Danny Ward unfortunately seems to be permanently injured. So I'd like to see something else up front. I guess if you were going to chuck another kid in and amongst the team, if you stick them in the advanced area of the pitch, they're less likely to harm the team. So, whether we'll see Kieran Phillips chucked in or maybe even Jones chucked in, who knows. But I'd like to see a couple. I have a horrible feeling what we've got might be it.
I was worried, the fact that there was nobody on the bench, because that suggests to me that we're trying to make the most of what we've got, and that is that frightened of anyone else getting injuries. If we were thinking we're going to have another 3 or 4 players coming in, if we did get a pick up an injury, it might not be the end of the world. But the fact that he's not played anybody worries me that this is it. I hope we get a few more in. I think definitely full back, as we've said, a central forward, definitely, because Fraser Campbell, I just can't see him being able to keep going game after game after game. I'm amazed he's got this far, to be honest, without picking up an injury or something. And Phillips, I don't think is ready yet. So I think we definitely need a central striker. It looks like wingers are probably happy with, but I would still like to see somebody in midfield with a bit more creativity and centre back cover.
We've got 4 games, I think, before the transfer window closes. We've got Watford away, Millwall at home. Not that away and home matters anymore. Bristol City away and Stoke at home. And as of today, we're still pretty close out. We're still in touching distance of the playoffs. And I'm not going to U-turn. I U-turn on many things, but I'm not going to U-turn on this, that we are close enough to have a good go as of today. But what I think we're going to do is we're going to wait to see how the next couple of fixtures to go before we decide how to attack this transfer window. If we win the next couple of games, we're pretty good against Watford for whatever reason. It's just a good matchup for us. We seem to just break them down in ways that they can't counter against. We just do pretty well there. And if you get a decent result against them and make it 3 points there, and then another 3 points at home against Millwall, which wouldn't be unexpected unless we score first. We do like losing from winning positions. But I think a couple of wins in a row there, and then you're looking at the transfer window differently than then if you've drawn one and lost one, or just taken a couple of points, then you're falling out of the playoff picture, and you're looking at stone cold mid-table. So I don't know what we need. I don't think the Brazilians are going to come out, are they? We were linked with a couple of exciting Brazilians, which would have been probably the most exciting thing to happen in 12 months. They seem to have disappeared when there was a value rumoured of around 6 million. That was never going to happen. I think we just misread whether there was a final zero on. We thought it was to the right of the decimal point instead of the left, unfortunately, and that's probably ruled us out. But these next 2 games are huge. These next 2 games for our season are huge. We've now taken 2 weeks off for the senior men's players, and hopefully that comes to some reward, and we win a couple, and then we can go out and get a striker and a fullback. They're the 2 positions we've been talking about all season. Danny Ward isn't an option as a striker, unfortunately, anymore for whatever reason. Rolando Aarons has come in as a winger. Danny Ward, we know, can play as a winger. He's not the greatest, but he can do a job there, probably better than any of the under-18s can do, or better than they did yesterday. Although I suppose Aaron Little Rowe did a decent effort going forward, maybe not in defence. But look, these next 2 games are crucial. If we win them, striker and fullback. If not, pad out the B team a little bit more. Go around looking for some 100, 200 grand signings to try and push that on to come and benefit from that 2 years from now, maybe. But it's just we are in that on the precipice of doing okay, but not quite there, definitely. So do you spend the money and gamble? As of today, who knows? Well, we all know what will happen with Town just yet, but 2 games from now it'll be a lot clearer, because that'll give us a little bit of time to do some business if we have won a couple. But I give up predicting this year. It's a joke, isn't it? It's just up and down. 9 out of 10 though, still up until January anyway.
I fully expect us to lose to Watford and beat Millwall at home and be in exactly the same position after 2, because that's how it's gone, isn't it? That's how this season's gone, and I would love to see us get more players in and really push on, but I don't think it's going to happen, because I think that the powers that be have accepted mid-table is fine this season, and it's going to be win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. I think to the end of the season, and I think they're happy with that, and then get rid of the dead wood in summer and group and really try and push on I hope try and push on next season. But yeah, that's how I see it. I think it's going to be unpredictable, but predictable at the same time, because it's the same pattern, and it's been the same pattern pretty much all the way through, hasn't it, up till now? So I don't expect that to change anytime soon.
Well,
I think outgoings will be more exciting than incomings, guys. I think who leaves in January, in regards to people going out of contract this summer, will be far more unpredictable than what we'll get coming in.
Well, if you're a Town fan, you believe in the Twitter account set up last month saying that Pritchard's going to Bournemouth. The amount of people duped into these things is quite staggering. Just stop believing Twitter rumours, because they're usually bullshit. Nick, just out of interest, because we know 9 out of 10 is a load of bollocks. What would your score be up until last week for the season so far out of 10? It's only fair to ask because you were on.
7.
Good lad. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, it were all right. Look, comparing to last season, we've done phenomenal, but then that's not saying a lot, is it? Because we were shit. So I think we're mid-table. A 10 would be top for me. Top 2. Well, that's not going to happen. 9 would be in the playoffs. 8 for me would be just below. I think we've done very, very well. I think Carlos has done a phenomenal job considering what we've got, but it's very mid-table mediocrity. And for that reason, I would give it a 7 rather than an 8, because I'm being overly harsh, but
no, I think you're being absolutely spot on, Nick, and that's why we have you on this podcast. Reality, not whatever. Just because you see, Mr. Kilroy is a little bit delusional because he lives in the southern hemisphere where they've dealt with COVID quite well, and he's allowed to go outside, whereas we're all trapped. So sorry, Ian, it had to be done. You are a happy clapper.
I can see why, because it is such a stark contrast in style and entertainment value when compared with last season. And, we've obviously got more points, but we're not pulling any trees up still. We've scored some really good goals, and it's entertaining to watch, but we're still mid-table, so I couldn't give any more than that. I couldn't
You
give
just
any
sound
more.
like a closet 9, Nick. You're a closet 9. Just come out and say it, mate. You know you want to.
Next season, it'll be 10. We'll be top 2.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. As I said, we're out the FA Cup and we've got Watford next week, so we've got a lot to look forward to. Nick, Barlow, Cam Pope, Kaye, Ian Kilroy, thank you very much. If you're in the UK, stay at home, wear your mask when you go outside, and stop touching people that are in different households, because I kind of want to go watch football next season, please. So protect yourself, stay safe, and all that nonsense, and see you next time.